watching my video. We are on week 5 of our Bridging the Gap series, and we got to see some really awesome videos on different techniques and different things that we can incorporate into our training programs. And so after watching, I think it was like the 4 or 5 videos, the one that I really liked was the core training progressions. I love core training, and I think it is something that should be, I guess every exercise program needs to incorporate core training. And the reason being is because core training is so important and beneficial to any exercise program. It's, having a stable and strong core is almost essential for any compound lift, any accessory lift, any aerobic activity. It's, I guess, imperative that we have, a strong and stable core and that we're training it. And this video specifically talked about core training progressively, and so they use like intranistic stability, then they did some stability, and then they did some dynamic stability. So kind of from like to beginner, intermediate, and then intense, your harder workouts or your core exercises. And so I really like that. They kind of use this flow chart where once they are competent and master one exercise, they add like an extra step to it or an extra movement to it to make it a little bit more challenging. And then once they master that, they move on to a next either exercise, a different exercise, or they add like an extra step or movement to that exercise. And then once they master, intranistic stability, they move over to stability. And same thing, they use that competency flow chart. And then from stability, they move on to dynamic stability. And so it really challenges us to work towards progress, and that's definitely something that I would incorporate into, my training program in general. Like, we're always going to be taking steps to get to our main goal. And so I really like that about that it was progressive, that it flowed, that you would take everything, break it down, and, take it one step at a time. And once you master one thing, once you're competent in one movement and one skill, then you add something to it, or you do more reps, or you add, more weight. And so I think that that's going to give us optimal performance, optimal technique, and it's really important. The other video that I really liked was the optimizing the squat technique. I am a super big fan of compound lifts, and I think the squat is a great lift. And so they kind of just broke down the technique, or the proper technique for a back squat, and I kind of want to just demonstrate it for you while I also talk about the steps and kind of give you a little pointer. So I have, hopefully you can see, so I have my bar here, and so it's gonna go on my back. So typically this would be on a squat rack. So I would unrack from the squat rack, take 2 steps back, and I'm gonna place my feet about shoulder width apart, and my toes could either be facing forward, or you can put a slight outward, place them slightly outward, about 45 degrees. Usually I like to have them a little bit outward. And so we're gonna wanna make sure, also our bar placement. So we can either have a high bar placement, which is above, like on our traps or shoulders, or we can have a low bar placement. And that's, just gonna come with preference, whatever's comfortable for you. And so I usually do like a little bit of a high bar placement, about shoulder width apart, 45 degrees of my toes pointed outward. And I'm gonna wanna make sure that my heels and my are flat to the floor. And when I go down, I'm going to aim for 90 degrees parallel, or a little bit lower. We don't want to be too high, and we don't want to be too low. So 90 degrees, I'm going to make sure my knees are slightly pointed outward, and I'm spreading the ground, so I'm pushing off my heels, and then back up. Okay, and let me just show you from the side view, just so that you can see the parallel. So here we are, shoulder width apart, toes slightly outward, and 90 degrees. So we want to make sure that we are not coming too forward to where our knees are overextending or coming too forward above our toes. This is going to cause a lot of stress on our knees and our shins. And then we also want to make sure that we're not sitting too far back, because that is going to cause stress on the lower lumbar region. And so, coming straight down, making sure that all of our joints are being aligned, reaching that parallel. I guess depth is always talked about. I think optimal depth is parallel, maybe a little bit less. If you go too far down, you start activating your glutes, and then you also, risk lower lumbar injury. And so just to be safe, 90 degrees is optimal and safe. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I guess to help with our feet placement and making sure that we're sitting back in our squat and we're keeping our feet flat to the ground, I would recommend like some flat shoes. So right now I'm not really wearing flat shoes. Anything like Converse or Vans or lifting shoes are good. They really help you stabilize the ground, spread the ground, and make sure that you're staying flat and you're not coming up on your toes, and you're also not coming back on your heels, okay? So hopefully this video kind of gave you some tips on the importance of core training and why we should incorporate it into all exercise programs, and also some tips on optimizing and perfecting your squat technique. Thank you for watching.